Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us. Please share this out. Tonight we've got the big announcement on who gets the first necklace in the raffle that we are doing. We'll be doing these every day. Well, not every day.
No.
We will have raffles going every day.
Yes.
They're not going to...
Every show.
Right. Every time we have a show, we're going to be announcing a new winner and starting a new raffle for the next necklace until we are out of them. We have a limited number. There are only 20.
Exactly.
There are only 20. I haven't actually bothered to count how many of them are silver tone and how many of them are gold tone. I think maybe Cheyenne's on the show. Cheyenne, if you're on the show.
Like equal amounts. We haven't counted.
Was there 10 and 10? I don't know. I hope so because, then, people that want it. Tonight I'm wearing the silver one.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's so fun because I have to tell you, these little beads here allow you to adjust it. Adjust the feather. Where do you want it? Adjust these other beads down here. You can move them up and down. And it changes the look every time that you do it. So, and then there's another bead over on this side of the feather too. So you can move that bead, you can move this bead,
Yeah.
That's why I said it's also a fidget spinner.
That's right. And we had a really good response. We really thank all of you who donated for this raffle. We got a good amount for this first raffle, about $250.
Yeah.
And 100% of this money is going towards Kathleen Bennett's defense.
But guys, I think we could even do more. I think we could even do better.
Yeah.
Because imagine if we could raise enough money so that Kathleen Bennett won't have to worry about her legal fees. Imagine if we could do that.
Yeah.
See, look, it's almost like I'm wearing a different necklace now because I changed it all around.
There you go.
See that? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to hold it right there, I can just there it is. It's not going to move because that little bead is there. See how that works?
Yep.
So the first one, can you show them the picture of the first necklace?
Oh, I don't have that on anymore.
The gold one?
Yeah, I took it out for the new one.
But that's the one they're supposed to win today. Okay. So you'll have to go back and it looks just like this.
Except it's gold.
It's gold tone. There's gold tone, silver tone. And we are going to let me grab the fishbowl right now.
That's right.
Here it is. Well, it's not a fishbowl. I have a bowl. I have a glass bowl.
These are the drawings. These
are the names.
For the gold necklace.
I'm holding it up right now. Do I get any kind of a drum roll or something?
Yep. Here we go.
Okay. Okay. And the winner of the first necklace is Brennan.
Really?
Brennan Estasio. Oh my God. Look, everybody. It's right there on the paper. I hope people can see that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, Brennan's lucky.
Wow. Look at that, guys.
Nice.
Brennan's name right there.
We'll keep that aside. What I'll do is I'll send you an email and I'll get an address where this can be sent to. Doesn't have to be your address. Just give me an address where you can get it from, and I'll communicate with you by the email that you made a donation with.
That's right. So private message us.
Yeah.
Send us your address, and we will ship that out to you. Congratulations. I bet I know who's going to be wearing that necklace.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for, your bravery, for everything that you've done to help people at Standing Rock, for supporting this water protector, Kathleen Bennett.
Exactly.
And helping us to get her a legal defense so that she will be reunited with her family and she will be free of these bogus, ridiculously bogus charges. And without further ado, let's tell them about the next raffle.
Yes.
You've seen the lovely necklace.
No.
Here it is. Here's how it looks in different lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little bit more detail. There is in the bone again. Let me mention again that there is little rhinestones all along the feather, and then there's 3 other feathers. This is an eagle feather necklace made by native artist Cheyenne Running Wolf, who generously donated all of these necklaces for Kathleen Bennett's Defense Fund. So we thank you for that. I have already had another viewer who said she's a jewelry maker. She's also an artist that makes jewelry. Not native, but she's an artist that makes jewelry, and she also has a kind heart and wants to donate. So if there are other things that you guys want to put up for donations for Kathleen Bennett's Defense Fund, holler at me. I will help you get those raffled off and raise some money for Kathleen Bennett.
That's right. And the way you do it, go to kpppfm.com, go to the link that says raffle, the little tab that says raffle, and this is a page you will see. It'll say raffle entry for Kathleen Bennett Legal Defense Fund.
If you are not putting your donation into this, on this page, if you don't see this, if it doesn't say raffle entry for Kathleen Bennett's Legal Defense Fund, and there's not a picture of a silver-looking necklace that says raffle number 2, you are not in the right place.
That's right. And the bids are $10 each for one ticket, and it's set at $10. So you go to this page and you scroll down to where it says click here to enter the raffle, and you'll go directly to a PayPal link that says raffle entry for Kathleen Bennett Legal Defense Fund raffle number 2. And then you make a $10 payment, and you will be entered in the next drawing, which is actually going to be drawn on the 5th of July. When we do a show on the 5th, we will draw the next winner. And again,
we may do another show tomorrow on the 4th of July, but we're not going to close the bidding on this necklace until the 5th.
That's right.
Because there is a holiday in between. I realize some of the people out there are going to be celebrating on the 4th of July. They might not even watch tomorrow's show. We might decide not to do one. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is a holiday.
It is a holiday.
I do have a lot of stuff to tell you about, so I want to kind of do a show. But I do also want to say that I want to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Spending time with your family is the best thing to do. For me, on holidays, it's all about spending time with people that I love, my friends and my family. I hope you're going to be doing that. I'm going to be thinking about Kathleen Bennett, who will not be able to spend time with her family.
No.
And every single holiday that has passed, I've thought about that. And now, when I go to bed at night, I don't think about her sitting in a cell anymore because she's not in a cell. But she's also not home, guys. She's not with her family. Imagine the agony that you would feel being separated from your family members for 6 months, especially in the condition that her mother is in at her age. And the fact that she's never left her side before.
Yes.
Or her son for this long. This has never happened before. So I hope you guys are going to be spending time with your family, and you're going to be able to enjoy the holiday with people that you love and care about. And I have a lot of stuff I want to tell you about the Veterans Stand. The Veterans Stand for Standing Rock. The Veterans Respond. The Veterans Service Corps.
Yep.
And how all of these groups have kind of morphed out of each other. They like one of them birthed another one, and then those two split, and then this is it's all very confusing, and there hasn't been a lot of clear accountability on the part of anybody associated with these groups that are the ones running these groups. Everyone just kind of like, oh no, they're they're doing the thing over there. And I want tonight to share with you my interview with Sadef Bouyak. I can't remember how to say her last name. Can you help me?
Sadef. Oh, my Facebook's not coming up.
Your Facebook isn't coming up? Okay, it's Sadef Bouyak. Buyukataman. Sadaf Buyukataman, who was with the organization that was created by Michael A. Wood Jr. After he did a call out to bring veterans to Standing Rock with Wesley Clark Jr. As you may recall, they raised millions of dollars as a result of that, over $1 million as a result of that call out, and began an organization rather than use the money at Standing Rock. This caused quite a stir. Wesley Clark was kicked out of camp and of the Veterans Stand thing altogether, and kind of vilified in the process.
Definitely.
By almost everybody. And, I find it interesting because I know Wes has told me that Sadaf is a good friend of his, and Michael Wood Jr. has told me that Sadaf was a friend of Wes's that stayed on with Veterans Stand, and that he was fine with that. What I find really weird, and I get it, maybe, she just really loves veterans, wants to help veterans. Cool, that's great. But it is a little bit strange that you would be in an to me, that you would join this organization because of your friend Wes Clark Jr., who was then thrown under a bus by the guy that you're going to be working with now, as someone that might find that, like, I don't know, I would be hurt by that. Personally, I'd be like, so you're going to stay with that guy that's saying these horrible things about me?
That aren't true.
Or, at the very least, I would want for those people to make very clear what my involvement wasn't. Since I was kicked out of the organization, I would want them to say this person had this involvement. So, over the next days, we're going to be talking about the Veterans Stand call out from Michael Wood, the Veterans Respond group that morphed out of it, and I essentially called it a rebranding because many of the people that were with the Veterans Stand group, including Michael Marcus, Ed Higgins, Michael Fassig, Aubrey Peckham, Evan Duke, a lot of these people that were with the Veterans Stand group became Veterans Respond. And started saying, don't give your money to Veterans Stand because those people don't have any accountability and they're not really the ones going to be out here helping protect water protectors from the cops. It's going to be us. So give us your money. And then out of that, those same people went on to do Veterans Service Corps and started throwing shade at the Veterans Stand people saying, hey, we had to break off from these other groups because we want to know what's happened to the money. We want accountability. We want an audit. And I've been waiting for that audit ever since I talked to Michael Wood Jr. like 6 months ago. I mean, I know it's hard to find good help, but really? How could it possibly take so long to do an audit unless you were really trying not to do an audit? I mean, have you ever had to do an audit or like report on something like that?
Well, I've been involved with people who have, and it's like usually with nonprofits, and you have to take time to get all your receipts in order and get your books in order, but then you have to turn it all over to an auditor that goes through it, and they basically will rebalance your balance sheets, and if there's something not right, they'll help you get it in the right order. If there's
Can that take a long time?
I think the actual audit, it depends on how big of an organization you are, but
they just started.
Yeah, well, they had millions of dollars too, but it shouldn't take 6 months to do an audit. It's basically if they're so disorganized that they can't get their stuff together, then
I think that's purposeful.
It'll be difficult to do an audit if you don't have all your receipts or a majority of them, or can somehow account in your accounting, in your ledger where things went. So if they can't get it together, it is going to be difficult to do an audit. So it might be that they just don't have it together. So,
Well, these are all of the questions that are mulling around in my head, and I have a lot more questions. So I'm just going to get started. This is Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
This is Duke Gomez-Schempp.
And you're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. We're also broadcasting online, so you can listen to us by going to kpppfm.com and clicking on the Listen Live link. And the purpose of all of this is to get to the bottom of who is responsible for what happened to Kathleen Bennett and for what happened to Mary Trujillo. And I believe that we deserve answers. We deserve to know who was paying Bill Running Fisher. And I know it was Michael Wood Jr. that was paying Bill Running Fisher, but there was other people that probably paid him as well. I want to know how much. I want to know who else were they paying out there. I know they were paying L'Oreal.
Yep.
I want to know how much. He told me, oh, it was less than $50,000. I want to see receipts.
Exactly.
I'd like to know. Mr. Michael Wood Jr., ask me anything, Michael Wood Jr. We're asking. We want to know. We've been asking for 6 months. You just haven't been forthcoming with the information. And what was really shocking to me when I first interviewed him was how unresponsive he was. I mean, I understand that he feels like distancing himself from Bill Running Fisher and L'Oreal Blackshaw because of the crazy things that they did, because of the criminal things that they did. But the way to do that, I think, first and foremost, would be to publicly denounce. I mean, these people are great at doing live streams and press releases and putting out their GoFundMes and collecting money and going on press junkets and going on television programs. You can't take 5 minutes out of your busy day to tell people that L'Oreal Blackshaw, put a picture of her. This person, not safe. Don't give her your money. Why would you not do that? Immediately, repeatedly. And if you learn or if you hear they're still doing something bad, why wouldn't you repeat it again? We need to alert you again. This person is out there and they may be telling you that they're associated with the Veteran Stand. They may be claiming the glory or the agency that at one point we did give them. So just know this person is not okay. Just like I told you about Chase Iron Eyes. I was also bamboozled. I thought that he was a decent human being up until the time that I said Kathleen Bennett's name to him and he ran for the hills.
Exactly.
And I realized he wasn't going to publish the story because he was friends with Mulaney. And I saw him continue to promote Mulaney after I told his wife and him that Mulaney kidnapped and was nearly killing an elder woman.
Exactly.
And had put another Lakota woman in jail, an innocent woman. He didn't even bother to respond to me. So it tells you a lot. And as soon as I realized who and what this man was, I made sure to publicly disjoin anything he has to do with. Like, distance myself and tell people, bad man.
Exactly.
Danger, Will Rogers. Okay? Why would somebody who's a former Baltimore cop not tell people that this man, Bill Running Fisher, was trying to perpetrate fraud, a crime, through L'Oreal Blackshaw? Why didn't he have them arrested?
Exactly.
Why didn't he have them brought to justice? Why didn't he even publicly say these people did something wrong? And I have other questions too. But I'm going to let you listen to this interview. But here's some things I want you to listen for. Uh-oh, are we dropping packets?
Whoop.
Looks like something happened to our broadcast.
Oh, we are timing out.
We are not online anymore. Our broadcast is gone. We are not on.
Oh, we're back.
What's going on? Sorry, guys. Looks like
There we
We're
go.
in and out. We're in and out.
Coming back. We're coming back. We're coming back.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Yep. We're back on.
Something's going. It's getting choppy.
Okay.
Robotic.
It should be back on now. We should be clear at this moment.
So here's what I want you to listen for when you're listening to this interview. I know the comment section can be wildly interesting,
Yeah.
but please, 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 remember this is a radio broadcast. The interactions in the comments are lots of fun, I'm sure, but I also want you guys to pay attention to what we're talking about in this interview.
Do you want that video to play first?
Which one?
The little clip, the two of them.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have you do all that here in just a second.
All right.
But I'm gonna tell them what I want them to listen for in this interview.
Okay.
Oh God, there's fireworks happening already, and it's not even the 4th.
That's right.
What's going on? Why do people even do that?
Well, it's the 3rd. We live in Minnesota. Fireworks are illegal here.
What?
Yes. So, but they're blowing them off near us. So that's the way it
It's
goes.
still happening. I don't know what's going on. See, can you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I wonder if people out there can hear us. Hopefully it's not recording. But anyway, what I want you guys to listen for are some of the things that we talk about and the difference between how we talk about them. One of the things Michael Wood and Sadaf tried to tell me was that, because the question is begged from what they did. They raised this money, they made this call out, they came out there, and what really do we remember about all of that? Well, that Michael Wood Jr. threw Wesley Clark under the bus, kicked him out of the organization in a scandal, that L'Oreal Blackshaw and Bill Running Fisher tried to invoice the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock over $300,000 fraudulently, and that they did nothing about it at Veterans Stand. They did not denounce them. They did not, put the police onto the case.
Yeah.
They didn't. They did not bring them to justice. We know that the veterans that were out there were abandoned with no shelter and no plans for their care, and that Michael Wood Jr. did not spend the money on helping those people, but rather formed a new organization so that veterans could continue to go out and do more actions like this, hopefully not like this. So both he and Sadaf tried to tell me that it was a success. Because you know why? It was a success because when they went out there, that Army Corps engineers announced that they were denying that easement. So obviously intimidated by the veterans because they knew they were coming that day. And so that's why they did it.
I see.
And I was like, no, that's not why they did it. That had nothing to do with it. Nope. I said, that was already decided a long time in advance. I knew about the fact they were going to deny that easement like weeks in advance of that denial. And I had heard it from a couple of different sources. And so that was all an act for show. And she comes back at me with more like, okay, but still, I'm gonna continue.
It's all very fancy.
Hello.
Sorry about
What's
that.
going on?
That was my problem.
What are you doing over there?
Fireworks.
Did you tell me something?
Yeah, there's fireworks. Sorry about that interruption. Just getting something set
Is
up.
it alright if I talk?
Yes.
Can I say something? All right. So she came back trying to tell me that no, they were very successful, and the reason they were successful is because this easement was denied on that day. So obviously their coming there had something to do with it. If not, even if it was all staged, as I told her it was, the Army Corps of Engineers did know that they were coming out there. So she wanted to make me believe, as did Michael Wood Jr., that even though there's no evidence of this, that the Army Corps of Engineers factored in all of those veterans coming and they got scared, and that's why they did what they did. But there's no evidence of that, guys. So pay attention to that, because that's part of that narrative. And Sadaf is selling it just like Michael Wood Jr. is selling it. Secondly, they both of them came up with this excuse that they didn't expect that many people to come out there. There was going to be like 2,000. They made a call out for this many vets. They said they raised this much money and that they would be doing reimbursements for the first blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then all these other vets decided to come out. Well, what did you expect when you said an open call out to vets?
Exactly.
Just because you didn't plan for more than 2,000 people doesn't mean that more people weren't going to go out there. Mm-hmm. And when you don't make provision for what you did not plan on or foresee, first of all, you should have foreseen that. You should have foreseen that more people than those that you invited would show up. I mean, that happens everywhere. That can happen at a potluck.
Exactly.
Forget about a movement, right? We're going to go have a march and a rally downtown. We want like 100 people to show up and then 10,000 show up and you're going to be angry?
Yeah.
You can't use that as an excuse is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
You should have known that more people could come and you should have had a plan for that. Whether it was giving people instruction or, making more public statements about what people's roles were. Because you did put L'Oreal Blackshaw under your command. You did make it public to people that she was under your command. And that is another thing I want you to listen for. Mm-hmm. I specifically asked Michael Wood Jr. about the story that L'Oreal said that Phyllis Young removed her from her command, came with Remy and took the microphone out of her hand and announced to everyone that she was relieved of her command and embarrassed her publicly. Yeah. So she was very upset and she went to Wes. No, she did go both of them, I guess.
No.
She went to Wes and he didn't believe that Phyllis was doing anything wrong because he loves Phyllis. That's what she told me. And then she went to Michael Wood Jr. and Michael Wood Jr. went and rectified that removal. Mm-hmm. He went back into the pavilion and told everyone on the microphone, this is my person. L'Oreal is the person that you need to get a hold of. If you need to do anything with the veteran stand, she is my next in command. Talk to her. And I asked him, did that really happen? Like she said it did? And he said, yep. So, yes, she was demoted by Phyllis, but Michael put her back in power. Mm-hmm. And she remained in power after he left. He authorized her to stay behind and clean. Now listen carefully to the way that Sadef tells it. Sadef tells it that, yes, they had put her as their national spokesperson, but she was screwing a lot of things up out there. She said, if you'll recall, the person who was our contact out at the camp was Phyllis Young. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't, doing everything that she was supposed to do. So when Phyllis came to us and told us that L'Oreal was screwing up and asked us to remove her from her command, we did. It's backwards. Mm-hmm. See how she did that? Yeah. Phyllis came and asked them to remove her from command. That's not what L'Oreal said. L'Oreal said Phyllis did it herself. Yep. And apparently she had the authority to do it. So then Sadef says, but after that, there was a need for cleanup at the camp. And that's where L'Oreal had asked to stay behind to do camp cleanup. So she basically says that she wasn't reinstated as a platoon commander under the veterans stand. She was just left to do cleanup. Yeah. She didn't have any authority as a commander. She didn't have any authority as a person that was acting in agency with the veteran stand except for as cleanup. But see, the thing is, that's not what Michael Wood Jr. told me. And I don't care whether you called her a janitor or a platoon commander, neither of which she was in true life. Yeah. You were paying her money. And she was given agency by you at one point in great visibility as your national spokesperson. So if you didn't very publicly make it clear to everyone that she was no longer your national spokesperson and that she had no authority to tell anybody what to do, then you should have made that very, very clear to the public so that you could have your plausible deniability that she wasn't working for you. But you didn't do that. And as of the date of this interview, which was sometime in February
17th.
Yeah, the middle of February. Right before the camps were evacuated, folks.
Yep.
Right up until the point that the camps were being evacuated. SEDEF is telling me they don't feel comfortable being public talking about, distancing themselves from L'Oreal. They don't want to do it.
Wow.
They don't want to do it. And she sent me some text messages. Oh, I forgot to send those to you.
Nope.
But let me just tell you what they are, and I'll show them to you the next time that we do the show. Where after this interview, I was kind of ticked off. I mean, I was very polite to her. She was very polite to me. I interviewed her, and then she told me Chris Dusing was on the phone with her. So I was like, okay, I don't know who that is, but sure, why not, I guess. And I was told to call her by my friend and one of the people that's been helping me investigate this case, Lissa Yellowbird Chase, which I told you about before. You've heard her talk on Vanessa Bolin. And she went out there, and apparently SEDEF was telling her how they were still cleaning up after L'Oreal Blackshaw, accepting liability for her actions, and taking care of a car that had been rented under Veterans Stand, which L'Oreal drove into a boat at camp and totaled. And they were going to be paying for that. They were going to be making a settlement payment for that. But you will note they did nothing for Kathleen Bennett or Mary.
Exactly.
Two people whose national spokesperson and Bill Running-Fisher nearly killed, and another who they left in jail to rot for 6 months. So I am really, really skeptical, especially after all these months have passed and the conversation I had with this woman, and they still did precious little to distance themselves, to repudiate Bill Running-Fisher or L'Oreal Blackshaw. And they have, it seems to me, you may disagree, but it seems to me that they have almost purposely not been clear about who's in what organization, and when those break up, who's from the old organization that's in the new organization, how are they still connected? Because this all looks like an orgy of veterans organizations.
Exactly.
They are all connected to each other, and the person from here is working over there. It's kind of like, Activate Now, Truth Against the Machine, and Relatives and Prayer, and all. They're like, who's where? They're all up in each other's stuff. I think it's very purposefully done that you don't know who's with whom, because then if something goes wrong, these people can just rebrand, call themselves something veterans, something else. That's why I called it Veterans Stand, Respond, and Beyond. Maybe that's what their next one is going to be. Or Veterans, the Next Generation. Like, every new galactically themed show. Because it seems like the only thing that these folks really care about is taking the money and running. Oh, no. We've been caught doing something unethical or illegal or, and there are real progressive veterans, like Veterans for Peace. There are real progressive people out there that want to fight for their country, not for oil or for politicians. That their money and their hard work is being exploited by organizations that are not being transparent, that are not being held accountable for their actions against innocent people like Kathleen Bennett and Mary Trujillo. So listen for how she talks about how I come back at her several times about the accountability that they have. what they should do. Why don't you talk about this? You know, I go back at it over and over and over again. And listen for the fact that she mentions that thousands of dollars of gear never arrived at the camp. According to an email that was sent by Bill Runningfisher to Michael Wood Jr., which I'm going to show you in connection to these shows, Veterans Stand, Respond, and Beyond, where Bill Runningfisher says he's already turned over a shipment of equipment to L'Oreal Blackshaw, and he wants his money.
Yeah.
He wants to get paid. And in another text message, Bill Runningfisher says that Michael A. Wood Jr. used the Kathleen Bennett thing to not pay him anymore, to stop paying him. Is that true, Michael? Did our story on Kathleen Bennett prompt you to want to wash your hands and stop payment on anything related to L'Oreal and Bill? Because that's what he is saying, and we're going to show you those text messages coming up as well. I also want you to listen for what SEDEF says about people's security roles and how they L'Oreal was supposedly holding people's donations hostage, and that there were issues about how they were being distributed, donations were being distributed, and how they were trying to track down massive shipments that went missing. There's a lot more. It's a little bit of a jaunt. It is an hour and a half almost, chock full of information. But I want you to hear everything they had to say. I want to first show you, there is a video of SEDEF and Chris Dusing. And here in this video, they explain a little bit. And it's a little clip. It's like a really long video, but we clipped a little piece of it.
Sets the stage.
Yeah.
Pairing the live stream. It's all very fancy.
Yeah.
Muted. Muted. You guys are live.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hi. I'm Chris from the Boiler Room, and today we are interviewing Chris Dusing here. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing very well, Chris.
Awesome.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You guys are live.
So you are the CEO of Veterans Service Corps?
I'm sorry, we were having a little technical difficulties there, and the Facebook live stream was kicking in on the speakers. My apologies. Say again, please.
You're the CEO of Veterans Service Corps?
I guess you would call it that. My team elected me president of the board when we made the split from Veterans Stand back in April. Big shoes to fill. So it's all new to me, but we're all in this together. So we're endeavoring to get out there and do the right thing.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So are you a veteran yourself?
I am. I'm a 10-year U.S. Army veteran. I was an infantry officer from...
So there you go. They talk about splitting from Veterans Stand. But remember, there was another group called Veterans Respond. Lots of different veterans groups. Everybody's getting that money. So, without further ado, here is my interview with SEDEF and Chris Dusing.
One moment.
One moment, please.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hey, SEDEF. I take it you already had my number in your phone.
I did. I got it at Vets Camp this afternoon. I was actually going to give you a call later, but I wanted to give your friend an opportunity to get in touch with you first so you weren't like, who the hell is this calling me?
Actually, I already had your name. I had your name and number from Michael Wood, but I interviewed him. Oh God, I want to say it was a week ago or two, but my days are running together on me now.
I hear you.
It's been crazy because I've been covering a story about an elder abuse case at camp,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's gone all over the place. And in the same breath, there's been all sorts of things going on at the camp with the moving to higher ground and the closing of the camps and the BIA on Sacred Stone and all this crazy stuff going on. So
Yes. It's fun times. Stories at Standing Rock are much more interesting than it sounds.
no kidding.
Yeah, I've been following your story with the elder abuse, and Wes is also a very good friend of mine. I think you spoke to him as well.
I did. I interviewed him as well. And you know what? I was supposed to contact you because you had more details about many of the questions I was asking them. And I was like, yes, I got to call her.
Fate finally brought us together. This is perfect. I'm here. I've been here, excuse me. I've been here in Standing Rock for about a week now, and I'm going to be here through Wednesday, and then I go home for a couple of days, and I'm coming back on Friday. So if you want to chat at any time.
Uh-oh, am I losing you?
Oh, can you hear me? Let me go closer to the window. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. You were breaking up there for a bit.
I've moved close to the window. I'm never quite sure where reception is going to be better. But I was saying I'm here until Wednesday, and then I come back on Friday. So anytime you'd like to chat, I'd love to sit down with you.
I am not at the camp. I am in Moorhead, Minnesota.
Okay.
And I will not be going to the camp at this time.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
I have been to camp many times, but but recently I have had, during this investigation and through the process of doing interviews for our radio station, I have become a target myself.
I'm not surprised that you're not the only journalist to mention that to us. You're probably better served.
Oh yeah,
Close and letting us feed you some information whenever we can.
exactly. Many of my sources needed to were forced to hightail it out of camp under threat of their lives, and so a lot of the people that I had on the ground out there that were reporting back to me are no longer there, unfortunately.
Well, I'm happy to help in any way that, like I said, we've just been here a week, so we're getting stuck in, but we've had the opportunity to meet with a lot of different people, build some good bridges on how we can support really the infrastructure going on here, and then, you know, Cindy, my job within Vet Stand is to manage our social media communities, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, and so my personal goal while out here is to get as much imagery and stories out to the general public, because you and I both know they don't know anything that's really going on here.
Exactly. So, do you mind if I pick your brain for a minute? Is that all right? Can we?
Not at all. Not at all.
I don't know how much information you'll have about what I'm asking, but I wanted to get a general sense of what the direction was, and by direction I mean like orders, because I know that there was a 3-day mission that was planned, right?
Yeah.
And
the December mission. Yeah.
The December, and that the scope of that was very, it was very
disruptive yet helpful at the same time. It's one of those lost on any of us.
Uh-oh, you broke up on me. You want to repeat that?
It wasn't a surprise. It didn't go unnoticed by any of us that the Army Corps of Engineers got out of their beds on a Sunday afternoon to deny the easement when our vets started rolling into town in high volume. And, that was the first time I think any of us had sort of gotten together and said, let's do something, and we didn't even expect the outpouring of support that we got. So this time around, our intention is to be a lot more strategic, a lot more measured, and to really work with the infrastructure that's already built within the camp. One thing we're seeing is is there are some fantastic leaders focused on doing some great work, but they just don't have the resources, either manpower or finances or supplies. So what we're hoping to do is to really provide that the existing infrastructure, the support they need from all of those areas. And we're talking with our veteran community right now in working with them on how and when we should have a larger presence out here. And in the interim, while our advanced team is here, we're buying supplies and driving people around, getting phone cards, and really getting a feel for how can we build a consistent, sustaining supply chain of supplies and gear into the camp. From a manpower perspective, the primary need right now is really cleanup of the camp and building of the new camp. So in those primary areas, we think we can provide a lot more support than, we worry, Cindy, if we make a call out to our veteran community who is incredibly motivated to say, get down here, we're going to put 20,000 votes here, and that's going to, you've been here, that's just going to agitate the situation even more, give DAPL an excuse to clear up, and cause mayhem from an ecological perspective. So we don't want to do that, but we do want to have a consistent show of support and power here.
Well, I will mention to you something that I don't know if you have heard, but I heard several reports that the decision of the Army Corps of Engineers not to grant that easement had already been made a week before, because I already knew about it.
Interesting.
And I heard it from two different sources. One of which was from White Earth Reservation, a source there, who told me that he knows because Winona LaDuke's assistant had already been notified, and she had been told, and they were looking for her to get her down there to make sure she was there on the day of the announcement. But she was told there was going to be an announcement, and you need to haul your cookies up to Standing Rock for the announcement. It was all staged from what I heard. Okay? And it's one thing to have people tell you, oh, yeah, they're going to make this decision, and then you'll see that next Friday, and then it happens. You know what I mean? So the whole, I don't know, I guess the rhetoric, the narrative that the veterans showing up is what stopped them, and that's when the Army Corps of Engineers, that's a narrative that falls on deaf ears with me, because I already knew the Army Corps of Engineers was going to do that a week in advance. And
Something in mind, Cindy. There's a little bit of playing around happening here, because we, in preparing, because I was part of the team sort of, getting the logistics and set up for the first stand. And in preparing, all of our comms were open on secure channels, and we really didn't necessarily have a plan B. When it turned out that we weren't going to go march on the bridge, that added enough confusion. First having double the amount of people come, and then the standing march that we had planned get canceled. That added quite a bit of confusion before the blizzard even hit, and then the blizzard just sort of messed us up a little bit. So I hear what you're saying in terms of that having an impact or not having an impact, but I still think they knew we were coming in fairly large numbers, and it wasn't until we actually showed up that the announcement was made. So it had a disruptive impact on us, and verification that we were actually going to show up with these people. So I hear what you're saying, but I think there's still a little bit of game playing going on with that announcement timing.
Certainly, definitely. I think that there has been game playing with timing of when they announce things the entire time, including the latest announcement of the Army Corps of Engineers. Look how they played that. It was, we're going to make an announcement coming up soon. By Friday, we'll be making an announcement. By the time they said that they were going to tell us on Friday, we already knew what the announcement was. They're going to, you know? And even before Friday, they made an announcement saying, oh, they're going to go ahead and grant the easement. I just lost her. Sedef is gone. Not fun. No bueno. There you go. Uh-oh, I lost you.
I lost you. I'm glad I got you back. Cindy, I have you on speakerphone. I'm here with Chris Dusing, who's our head of field operations for Veterans Stand. He's sort of the main guy helping us organize. I hope you don't mind if I sort of include him in our conversation. Is that okay?
Of course not. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Hello, how are you, Cindy?
Pretty good. I'm glad to have an opportunity to speak to both of you because I realized there was a lot of controversy around the visit from Michael and Wesley, and the kind of feelings that were created after they left. Because,
Sure.
as I put it to Michael, it was very highly anticipated. It was probably the most broadly covered story of Standing Rock by the mainstream media at any rate.
Yeah.
And when the veterans had to leave precipitously, it really did kind of take the air out of the room. I mean, it felt that way from an outsider's perspective looking in at the media frenzy, that when the veterans left, it was just kind of like, oh, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. And, for us, it was a little bit, too. There were, I will say, a lot of the vets, because I get the benefit of sort of being frontline with the community, and there were a lot of our veterans, in particular our Vietnam vets, that found a lot of healing in coming here, even just for the short period. But we all walked away with this isn't done yet, which is actually why we're back here. We never really cut ties. We kept constant sort of contact with the people that we knew and trusted. And once we saw the situation heading back into a very, very negative space, we just wanted to make sure that we got here in time to be of service.
Mm-hmm. So my understanding of all of the ins and outs of what occurred during Michael's and Wesley's visit is tied up in this greater story, or this, bigger picture of the closing of the camps, the cleanup of the camp, and also the people that were removed from the camp, and the kind of roles that some of the people and the head of security played, and how they were connected to the Veterans for Standing Rock. Specifically, the participation of L'Oreal Blackshaw as the sergeant major, I think she told me she was.
Yeah.
That was the point of contact in the story where I really
It all broke down.
It all broke down for me because, well, it kind of started breaking down with Bill Runningfisher. There was a story in the Bismarck Tribune on January 5th by Carolyn Gruskin giving us this detailed story of elder abuse that was very disturbing.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed him, the big question about the story was, it says in the article that he discovered this woman in these horrid conditions which he described to me on December 6th, but that he did not report that to the police until December 17th. And the question for me was, why that time frame? Why didn't it get reported until 11 days later? And the reasoning he gave me was that he did in fact try to report it, that on December 6th, she was evacuated in an ambulance and she was supposed to go to a hospital, but that the casino was being used as a staging area, and then when they took her there first, they lost her. She got lost in the shuffle. Her daughter found her somehow again and brought her back to the camp, and she never was taken to the hospital that day. And he never found her again until the 17th. And when he found her again on the 17th, he was out once again on behalf of the security team of the camp, like he had been on December 6th, doing wellness checks throughout the camp. And there was a report that he had on that day to investigate an elder that was tied down. And he was going around the camp looking for this elder being tied down, and lo and behold, he found Mary again and remembered, oh my gosh, that's the woman that I found zip-tied to a chair, sitting in her own excrement and urine, and naked. And so he then went and reported again, having found her, and she was then transported to a hospital. So I asked him what kind of, background he had. He told me he was from the Gomez-Schempp tribe from Montana, that he was the battalion, squad, something. It was a weird platoon, maybe. Oh yeah, it was platoon, medics platoon leader for the camp security under Major Sergeant L'Oreal Blackshaw. And he was recruited to her team by, the veterans that stayed behind were asked, when they came to the Vets for Standing Rock, according to her, were asked by the camp's leadership, the elders and the headsmen, to help with security at the camp. And she agreed. She consulted with Michael about that, and also about staying behind and helping clean up after the vets' evacuation, and he agreed. And this was the statement that she made in a video she put on Facebook on December 18th when she was explaining the invoices that she sent to your organization, which were not paid. So the question that I had was, Michael, did you authorize this person to do security for the camp? How did she end up doing security for the camp? And
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and how did she put her camp security team out of a group of the veterans that stayed behind, and have people like Bill Runningfisher falsely accusing a woman of a heinous crime like this, and forcibly removing her entire family, which has also resulted in this woman, Kathleen, being in jail now for over a month, and her mother, who has dementia, being put in a hospital where she's now dying. How does that happen, right? And Michael really didn't have an answer for me as to what the security part of it was, because he said he never authorized that.
I was here as well too, and I'm going to preface this, Cindy, by saying I'm probably the person within Veterans Stand that L'Oreal despises the most.
Oh, she does. She did talk about you, and I was kind of leery to call you right away after having talked to her, because she gave me Michael's number, and she also sent me text messages that Michael sent her, and she really, I could tell she's obviously very disgruntled. Let's just put it that way.
There's a little bit of interesting history there as well too. I think her primary she's a very interesting individual. Her primary want from me was administrative access to our Facebook community, which is over 30,000 people. I just didn't feel good about the whole thing. Having had the experience I had with her on the lead up to Standing Rock, I found her to be really sort of disruptive and rude to some of our followers online. People just asking basic questions. Super interested in making sure everyone knew she was part of the command team. And she wasn't really part of the logistics team in getting us to Standing Rock. She was intended to be sort of on-site operational part of the leadership here, especially given her native background and interest in sort of building bridges. We thought that she would also help us as a great spokesperson. But when we got here, things kind of, between the blizzard and the moves and the chaos everywhere, it became obvious that her presence was disruptive. And we also, Phyllis Young was our primary contact, as you would have known from your conversation from Wes.
Yep.
Phyllis and her leadership team, they weren't comfortable background information on her, but couldn't find anything past 2 months' history. So they asked us to remove her from a command-type position, which we did while we were here in Standing Rock. Because of some of the mayhem in the casino, and in trying to sort of mobilize ourselves out of here as quickly as possible to stop the disruption, she was able to sort of reposition herself into a leadership role and offered to stay behind, but again, only for coordinating cleanup. We also had thousands of dollars worth of supplies and gear that we had shipped here that never arrived, and so part of her role was to distribute the donations we had brought with us and to try and track down the missing supply shipment. There was never any mention of her playing a security role, and that certainly wasn't approved by anyone that I was in touch with, and I was in touch with the entire command team.
I was surprised to hear that news myself and thought it a bad idea.
Yeah. I had an incident with L'Oreal in the casino where she came storming in. She had already been relieved of command, and she was trying to yell and tell people what to do, and I just put my hand on her shoulder, and I said, as I understand it, you've been relieved of command, so why don't you come talk to me and let's calm this down. And we had, she got very upset with me there, but we did have a good conversation. But, ultimately, some people came to Standing Rock to help themselves.
Yeah.
Some people came to Standing Rock to help the broader community. And unfortunately, I think that she falls into the latter category. And I saw the Facebook Live video where she was all very emotional about having been asked to take on a security role here by the tribe. Mm-hmm. And, knowing her and having had my experience with her, I just was watching that with a sort of, that's not true. I'd like that to be verified look on my face. And it was really shortly thereafter that she began demanding administrative access to all of the Facebook communities. And when I said no, because I'm the only one who has admin access, when I said no, she began an internal campaign against me. I've got all sorts of messages, which she unfortunately CC'd me on to the leadership team. So I don't have a whole lot of good to say about her. I feel that her presence was disruptive from start to finish, and I'm probably one of the most sorry that she's a part of our organization because was a part of our organization, and that I would have screamed louder earlier to remove her.
I am not done with her by a long shot because I've been investigating further into her background, and I did find her history. It's really, really weird, Sadaf. I found a story, my research team, I shouldn't say I all the time, because there's a lot of people doing this work, and I have not done a lot of that. Yeah, I got to give credit where credit is due, because I keep saying, I found this. And I'm like, well, that's actually somebody else found that for me. But my research team found her history. Wesley had given me a tip, because when I first interviewed him, I told him that the elder woman of the story that I'm investigating is one of the last remaining survivors of the descendants of the Wounded Knee Massacre, the original Wounded Knee Massacre.
Yeah.
And I told him that L'Oreal was telling that story, that she was a descendant. And I said, it's so interesting because she is partially responsible because of her security person, platoon leader, Bill Runningfisher, his lies that he made up. And by the way, this family was not the only people that they falsely incriminated and had removed from camp. They also removed J.R. American Horse, as Wesley told me. He said he was mortified by it.
Yep, that happened while we were here. We spent some time with J.R. this week as well, too, because we have a lot of amends to make to him because of L'Oreal. And
not only that, Bill Runningfisher sent me a text message saying that J.R. American Horse is the person responsible for building the IED that was used to blow up Sophia Wolanski's arm.
Unbelievable. I don't believe that story for a second.
Neither did anybody else, but these are the allegations, the kinds of allegations being made by this woman's security personnel.
And that's how they ousted JR from Chetek.
That's correct, Chris. That is how they ousted him. He was proudly sharing with me the work of the security team. He was bragging to me, and in fact, in one other text that he sent me, he said, if I ever need an escort to the camp, because I said, wow, there's a lot of bad things happening at the camp. He told me there was rapes happening, there was drugs, there was elder abuse, there was weapons, and I was like, wow. And this is when I asked him at the end of my interview, is there anything else you'd like to tell me? And then he just let loose with all of this other stuff. And he was telling me then he started telling me that, and this was the weird part, he's on the security team. He tells me that he's like right underneath the commander, basically, L'Oreal Blackshaw, and she is the head of all the security at the camp. She corrected that later, telling me originally she was just head of security for the vets, and then later on she became head of security for the camp, and she was requested to do that by the camp leadership, by the elders and the headsmen.
That's very interesting to hear, because even last time we came, and I've had detailed conversations with the leaders that are here in camp, that there was never the intent for the veterans to take over security for the camp, but the security would remain indigenous to people who have been here for the duration. So it sounds like she decided to start a coup and form her own security force.
Well, and that's what, we heard about some of the stuff she was doing remotely, but piecemeal. It wasn't really until we got here last week that we heard really the breadth of the just horrific behavior towards other veterans that were based here, towards the camp community in general. I mean, turning herself into a de facto security force and intimidating people and holding donations and supplies that we had sent, intended for them, hostage, literally, in some cases, to demand respect from people. And this is just nothing of what we're about, and we're just as appalled as you are to be hearing all of this stuff.
Well, Sadef, I'm glad you said that, because I was just about to share with you how this family of this elder woman is connected to this story. So, Russell Vasquez, who's the grandson of Mary Trujillo, he originally contacted me to tell me this wild story about how him and his family were kicked out of the camp, and his grandmother was basically kidnapped by this woman, a stranger, he told me. He doesn't know her. Mulaney Stoneman, who was part of some woman's society at the camp. And so it sounds weird, because, I'm like, okay, so but what's the motive? Why would she do that? She's just a stranger. She's not a family member fighting over the custody of your grandma. Nope, she's just some random stranger. And they kicked you out of the camp for why? It just doesn't make any sense. Did you do something? No, I didn't do anything. It sounded crazy to me. And this was before the story came out in the newspaper. Before Bill Renning-Fisher, before I heard anything about what he did, before I knew about L'Oreal Blackshaw, before it was connected on any level to the Veterans for Standing Rock, he had called me on my birthday, that's why I remember it so vividly, to tell me the story and ask for help. And the reason that he had my number was because I had been working with and had interviewed documentarian and InfoSec Josh Long, who I had been talking to about the kinds of camp security communications issues that people were having out there, and how they were trying to solve those problems. In fact, they were even, as he put it, watching the watchers, because he could tell that they were using IMSI catchers and other things to try to block people's communications and sabotage their communications out there. So he had been staying at the camp himself, and he had met this family who he stayed with. His girlfriend and he had inadequate housing, as did many people that went out there, including many veterans, and therefore they needed to seek rescue from the campers that were there that had good housing, like these folks. And he connected this kid with me, and this kid, as we were all figuring out what was happening to him and his family together, when finally the newspaper story came out, when they arrested his mother, and as I started to interview the people involved in the story, including Bill Runningfisher, Mulaney Stoneman, and L'Oreal Blackshaw. It was then that I discovered, and partially through a website that is pro-pipeline and pro-police, that Russell had been on the camp security prior to the veterans camp security forming. And they did clash directly. In fact, Von Bull Lodge, who Russell says was sleeping in the same yurt as L'Oreal Blackshaw, and who L'Oreal Blackshaw told me left with her from the camp. She said they left at the same time. Von Bull Lodge was her right-hand guy. He was the head of he was the headsman's security person, the top person for the headsman's security. And so she kind of worked in tandem with him. And I asked her, why did she trust this Von Bull Lodge? Who's he? Why, and she's like, oh, he was the security for the headsman. And so, of course, I trusted him. And I said, well, who's this Bill Runningfisher guy? And she said, well, that's Von's cousin. So they're related, and I want you to keep this in mind, that these people are related to each other. Sadef, Chris. So that was the first connection. These two people are cousins. Oh, okay. So he told you that his cousin wanted to be on your security team? No, he told me that his cousin is a U.S. Marshal, and that, yeah, he does security work. He has a company, which is that Eagle Child consulting and enforcement company that invoiced your Veterans for Standing Rock funds. So when I asked Russell about this, he told me that when they had this clash, what had happened is that L'Oreal started having security meetings with her security force at the Prairie Knights Casino, where she was staying sometimes. The rest of the time when she was in the camp, she stayed in Von's yurt. And I even asked Russell, I said, were they sleeping together? And he said, well, I can't tell you if they were sleeping together, but they were definitely sleeping together.
Well, we heard that she spent very little time in the actual camp itself, if it wasn't take pictures or videos of herself sort of talking about the work that she was doing, but the rest of the time she was holed up in the casino, from what we hear now.
Exactly. That's right on with what I heard. That's exactly what the same thing that I heard from Russell. But
I remember while we were here in December, Cindy, and I don't know the context other than what I'm telling you right now, but I do know at some point L'Oreal was very, very panicked at the idea of Wes speaking to one of the headsmen. Oh, he's going to mess something up. Oh, he's going to say something. No. And was really averse to having Wes speak to a headsman.
Wow.
That happened to be in the casino that day.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because she was probably playing both sides. Who knows? This is very strange. So then let me tell you what Russell said about this connection. He said that Von Bull Lodge, they were having their meetings about what they were going to do, and it got back to him because Von spilled the beans to Russell that they weren't going to repurpose all of the stuff that had been left behind by the veterans that was supposed to be her responsibility to clean up or to get a group of people to clean up. Instead, they were going to burn it. He said, it's just in the way, we're going to burn it. And so this freaked him out. And he got together a group of people from his security team to go out there and try and collect as much of the stuff that could be repurposed before they destroyed everything. And that sounded insane to me when he told me this. But that's not all. You just said a moment ago that you know that they were holding people's deliveries hostage, sometimes deliberately. Yes, well, he discovered that too. Russell discovered that, among other things. He also discovered that someone in that group, because he went in and sat in on one of their conversations and then told everybody in a very loud fashion that he was going to go run some reconnaissance that night to see if somebody was communicating directly with DAPL security and the police and snitching on people. And instead of going to where he said he was going to go do reconnaissance, he went and hid in a security. Someone from the security team or the police went to try to arrest him where he was supposed to be at, and sure enough, he saw a white SUV on this road that is only used by the police and the security. So he felt, he had all this information about who and what was doing these things at the camp, and he went on a live stream with Josh Long and Dean the drone pilot from Drone to Be Wild, under an anonymous name. And he talked about what they were doing at the camp. And he named people's plans and names and stuff. And shortly thereafter, his grandmother was forcibly removed to the hospital, and they were kicked out of the camp.
Before I forget to say this, Cindy, we've been trying to build some bridges between the ACLU and some of the folks getting arrested out here. The ACLU is more than happy to assist. They just can't outreach directly. If Kathleen hasn't been in touch with the ACLU, I'd be happy to get some contacts for you to pass along to her, because she's breaking my heart right now, the fact that she's in jail right now.
Me too. Me too. And you know what? I really appreciate that you would say that. And you and Wesley have been so kind. I have to say, it is a really disturbing and touching story, and it is so heartening to find other kind-hearted human beings that want to resolve them. And I know that that is the goal of most of the people that have heard the story, is for this family to be reunited as quickly as possible. But I will say that this L'Oreal Blackshaw, when I looked back into her history, Wes was the one that gave me the tip that she was Arapaho. And I said, Arapaho? Because she's been talking all this stuff about how she's from Wounded Knee. And so what we found was that, and I only found one verifiable picture of her. And the reason I was able to identify her as being the same L'Oreal Blackshaw that we know is because she has a very distinctive tattoo on her wrist. On her, it looks like a bracelet, like a filigree bracelet almost, on her wrist or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and that woman, L'Oreal Bell, that was in this horrific story that I found, had that same tattoo. And the horrific story is one in where her daughter and two other girls were brutally murdered in an unsolved crime that had to do directly with the opening day of a casino on her reservation. And according to the article, she is Arapaho. So, yeah. That is a horrific story, isn't it?
That is just horrific.
And it was really weird because she always talked about just wanting to, yeah, I know, right?
You know, at some point I was really doubting that she had children. I was like, these kids that she so much cares about, why are they never in the picture? Why are they never part of discussion? She's not, I have a lot of friends who are moms. They act differently when it comes to their kids.
It was really chilling to me. It was chilling to me to find out that, and it stuck in my head all the videos I had watched of her because I did some research before talking to her. I watched her videos.
Can I give you my favorite little? I'm super passive aggressive online. I tend not to attack people who are attacking me because I didn't do well at middle school the first time. I'm not going to do it again. But I knew that she was attacking me in some of her videos, and some of her, how shall I say, cronies started posting to our Facebook community asking for audits and things like that. And so I responded as the Facebook page for Veterans Stand saying, of course there will be an audit once we've completed all of the payments, and that audit will also include the over $100,000 that was sent to our camp on-site coordinator. I did that on purpose. That very same day, Cindy, she came out with the video saying, hey, peace. I want peace with Veterans Stand and Michael, and I didn't want this to turn into all this. We don't need an audit, she actually says in the video. Later that same day, all I did was say the audit was going to include her spending out here, and boom, I got a result. So take that for what it's worth.
Oh no, it's all very, very interesting. See, it's almost like we all have pieces of a puzzle. I have some pieces, and you have some pieces. Wes has some pieces. Michael has some pieces. But what's more interesting to me is the call I had with Sonny Richards. Sonny Richards is an attorney. He's come out of retirement to help his family members marry Trujillo, his cousin, the woman in the hospital right now that's dying. And she, Kathleen, is also his relative, and so is Russell. Excuse me. Kathleen and Russell are his relatives, so Sonny agreed to petition for her guardianship so that she could be taken out of the care of Mulaney Stoneman, this total stranger who has very questionable background. She misrepresented her.
I saw some of that, I think, in your reporting. There was something about drug abuse in her background.
Yes. Also, the fact that she said she was a medic, misrepresented herself as a medic on several reports that are prominently featured in the press kit, in the press section of her Women of the Dakotas page, which was linked until just a couple of days ago to her GoFundMe, in which she had raised $22,000 for the women, children, and elders of the camp evacuation, to evacuate women, children, and elders from the camp. This was something she did before the storm hit, Sedef.
Really?
Yes, and she had purchased a $17,000 SUV for the purposes of removing women, children, and elders from the camp as they were being, quote-unquote, transitioned out. And so when Sonny talked to me, he told me three things that blew my mind. The first was that Mulaney Stoneman had a bunch of other last names, that when he went into the courtroom, the first day that they had a hearing after the emergency hearing in the hospital was held, giving Mulaney emergency guardianship, the judge said that everything that had been presented to him on that date had been hearsay, and if he heard any more hearsay, he was going to dismiss the case, and the guardianship would revert back to Kathleen. And so there was supposed to be a follow-up hearing where they were going to present real evidence, to which Sonny Richards showed up. On that day, Kathleen also showed up because she was going to contest the guardianship. But when she showed up at the at the courthouse, she was arrested. She was arrested, and there was no warrant issued for her arrest or charges stated until days later. Literally, days later. No warrant was even available. But she was arrested.
That's actually starting to sound pretty commonplace around here.
Oh, yeah.
Which is horrible. Horrible.
Oh, yeah. So they arrested her, And we couldn't even find out for days what the charges were. But then he also told me that when he was, after she got arrested, he still proceeded in that hearing, and he was allowed to be an advocate for his cousin. And he said to the judge, Judge, could you please ask Mulaney, Stoneman, White Eagle, Fisher, if she has any evidence or any credentials to present to the court today? And that she said she did not. But he gave all those names, including the one Fisher.
Yeah.
And then he told me that Bill Running Fisher called him on the phone later and asked him what his involvement was in this case of Kathleen Bennett. And that Sonny said to him, I know who you are, Bill Running Fisher. You're Mulaney Stoneman's husband, ex-husband. I represented you in 2004 on the Rosebud Reservation when she kidnapped some children that weren't even hers. They were like adopted or something. And he said, yeah, I know you were representing me back then, but that's not why I'm calling now. I'm being investigated by the FBI. And basically he told him, you know, I need to know what your involvement is in this case and back off because you're messing with my stuff. And, you know, Sonny told him, I'm not going to tell you anything. I don't have to talk to you. And you're in a lot of trouble because I heard that you've been telling people you were a U.S. Marshal, and I knew you back from on the Rosebud Reservation, and you ain't even a cop. I don't even know you, much less a U.S. Marshal or a BIA chief or whatever yarns you're spinning. And I'm pretty sure the FBI is going to be wanting to talk to you. And then he hung up on him. And not too long after that, a dark Datsun with shiny rims and North Dakota plates with two suited Indians showed up at his place. He wasn't home, but they threatened the neighbors. They told the neighbors that if he didn't back down off this case, he would be a dead man. He sent me the text messages where he talks about being threatened on the days that he was threatened. And then he received a call from the prosecution telling him that if he does try to show up to petition for Kathleen for the guardianship for Mary on February 14th, that he will be arrested. And the sheriffs have been following him for a week now. He said he gave me the plates of the sheriff's vehicle. Because he went on the record sharing with me how he's being threatened, I've already played that broadcasted on my radio station on 88.1 FM here in the Fargo-Moorhead metro region. But I wanted to share that with you because if what Sonny says is true, then Bill Running Fisher is Mulaney Stoneman's ex-husband, and Vaughn is Bill Running Fisher's cousin, and all of these people were working in and around L'Oreal Blackshaw. Yep. And what I was told, I have not been able to verify this. I will say that beforehand. But what I've been told by a variety of sources is that L'Oreal Blackshaw, Bill Running Fisher, Mulaney Stoneman, and Vaughn all know each other very intimately, are good friends, and are working together, not just to scam money from the Veterans for Standing Rock, but also from the American Indian movement and the tribe.
As disgusting as that is, I'm not the least bit surprised.
No, I'm not either. I didn't know about the other, because this person, her name is Little Butler? What's her name? Rose Little Butler? That's the person that sent me these messages. Her name is Rose Little Butler. And she stated that they all know each other, and she said very specific things, like they also are scamming the tribe. They billed the tribe $30,000 for camping or tents or something that they never produced or whatever. And also she said that they had billed the American Indian movement in Texas for $80,000 for security equipment. I mean, those are very specific allegations, not just like, oh, that's a scammer, but, you know, this group was billed this much for this and that. I have not been able to verify that. I haven't heard any other group say that these people were scamming them, but then again, you haven't really been public with the fact that L'Oreal tried to scam you guys, or that Bill Runningfisher tried to scam you guys. And
well, and a lot of that is just sort of, we're also waiting for our audit to be completed, and we're going to shine a spotlight, but I don't know, I tend to, and this might be my negative influence on the group, I don't like feeding trolls. Like, I thought if we went after L'Oreal, that we would just be shining a spotlight on her to our audience of thousands of people, whereas keep her in her little box and just ignore her because she's unfounded was, to me, a better approach to take.
these,
And honestly, it was simply derived from my confidence in knowing that we hadn't authorized her to do anything that she had done while she was out here, and my, I don't know, just my naivete that we're doing the right thing and that should shine through more than this trolling. So
right.
if we made a mistake there, that's on me.
Oh, I don't necessarily think that blame needs to be broadcast anywhere, but here's what I do think is really important. She isn't just a fraud, in my opinion, from what I've been able to gather in evidence and witnesses' statements. She's a dangerous person because these people have put people in jail, and Mary's life is literally on the line. I have been praying very hard that she doesn't die because it will literally destroy her family. It will destroy her daughter to have been sitting in a jail when her mother's health was perfectly fine up until the moment that they ripped her away from that family. And so this is a tragedy already. Hopefully it will not become more horribly tragic by the loss of life. But it's not just her either. It's what this has done to Russell, what this has done to J.R. American Horse, and a variety of other people that have been implicated by L'Oreal, Vaughn, Bill Runningfisher, the people on her security team, which has been identified and known in the camp, even though it wasn't authorized by the Veterans for Standing Rock, as the Veterans for Standing Rock security people. That's what, that's the unfortunate legacy here, that everyone doesn't really know the part about how you guys have repudiated her and did not authorize this. Although I did play Michael Wood's interview where he says, hell no. And a lot of people did see it, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, it came out of my show. It didn't come out of your organization. It did come from the head of your organization, but I think you know what I'm saying. It's just that there's a lot of misunderstandings out there, and the people themselves, including L'Oreal, feel very much entitled to make threats against me and my station even for having brought out this information about them. Exposed them.
I think, I'm definitely going to take that in, Cindy. There has to be a way that we can, professionally and ethically, at the same time, publicly distance ourselves from L'Oreal and whatnot. And maybe now that we have the advanced team out here, we have the plans building for what's coming next, maybe in this period now is the time to just sort of, reiterate we have a better understanding of what was done by our on-site team once we left, and that it was, not within the bounds of what the scope of the mission was, nor our expectations, and we can find a way to do something.
I will share personally with you, Sadaf, and with you, Chris. I don't do public relations. That's your department, I'm sure. But I have been talking to and doing interviews of a lot of people, those who remain at the camp, those who remain with the resistance. And the stories that I have been reporting on, there has been a lot of confusion and sometimes animosity toward the relationship between the veterans that came with the Veterans for Standing Rock and the camp, precisely because of this. Precisely because of the confusion, the chaos, and the anguish that were caused by L'Oreal and her group.
Yeah, and we've been confronted with that all week, and that's a lot of the reason that we're here is to, number one, let people release their frustration out a little bit on us. Many of them have been very gracious, like JR, American Horse, in giving us an opportunity to prove to them that we aren't what L'Oreal represented us to be. So, you know, we're still being vetted in every conversation that we have here, but we've been coming through with supplies, with support, with coordination, and we hope that that will continue as we really build the infrastructure for support here. I hear you. You know, I've had many a finger pointed at me and folks yelling at me. All I can do is sort of take it in and share with them what our experience was and ask them. We walk around with a lot of pads of paper asking people what they need.
Right. And I will also share that there was an incident that was even more distressing in the midst of all of this. L'Oreal and Vaughn were forced to leave the camp. A lot of people said it was under very suspicious circumstances. According to a lot of the reports from the camp itself, Michael Marcus removed Vaughn because he had a gun, and they were not supposed to have guns. And also, Vaughn had been posting on social media, on Facebook, that meth shipments were being brought into the camp, and he was tagging the Morton County Sheriff's Department. And we have screen captures of those posts. So it seemed almost as if they were trying to incite the police to come into the camp and raid the camp on purpose. And what was also shocking about that is that right after they left, right after the Vaughn and L'Oreal were kicked out, Michael Marcus and some other people kind of took over the leadership, if you will, of the camp's security and the people representing veterans there, etc. And then they did a live stream in the middle of the night, like 10:30, close to 11 p.m., where they had lit up and were burning down the headquarters for the veterans, their communications headquarters building. And you could have blown me over with a feather. And it was like raging fire, giant. And it was one of those buildings that was like, of all the buildings that are built out there, it was one of the better, bigger buildings out there. And they were laughing. The people that were standing around, most of whom were representatives of the remnants of what was left after the Veterans for Standing Rock leadership were kicked out, were these new people, and they're burning a building down. And you have to know that for Russell, who had been told right from the get-go by Vaughn that L'Oreal and their team's intent was to burn a bunch of stuff down, that those folks who had already been told that was what the veterans security team's plans were, seeing them burning down the headquarters for the veterans communications was kind of horrifying. And it was
understandable.
Yeah,
Hearing all the stories.
Yeah, and then it was really weird because Ed Higgins did a live stream where he said, "Oh yeah, it's totally okay. They're burning the headquarters. It had to be done. There was a bunch of intelligence inside, and they needed to do it." But on that video, which Michael Marcus actually pulled off of the Facebook immediately following the completion of the live stream, there was a man who calmly, but in a very upset tone, walks up to him and says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you making our camp look bad? Why would you burn that building? Why wouldn't you repurpose the materials? And do you have authorization to do this? Do you know that this could cause the camp to be raided? You are putting us in danger, you know." And so he tries to plead with a laughing and kind of cocky Michael Marcus right before they take the live stream down, and boom, it was gone. So it was kind of like surreal. These are the stories. These are the people I've talked to, that I've interviewed, telling me that these stories are going on. The weirdest one, which L'Oreal Blackshaw told me, was one where she accused people in Russell's security team, one of them by the name of Mowgli, of stealing human ashes that belonged to Ed Higgins' mother, and spilling the human ashes all over himself. He was caught, covered in human ashes. This is the story she told me, and I'm listening to the story, and I'm like, from L'Oreal Blackshaw, I'm like, human ashes. Now that doesn't come into conversation every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that you will probably hear more about, or the things I have heard about in relation to the security team of the people that, I mean, she was your national spokesperson, unfortunately, but she was. So this is the kind of thing they were getting involved in, and I kept all of this information. I've got. You can go back and listen to her interviews, all the crazy things she said about this kid, Mowgli. Guess what Mulaney Stoneman told me? It just so happens that kid Mowgli is one of the people that is giving a statement against Kathleen's family. These people are intimate. All these people in these stories they come right back to this woman in the hospital. They go right back to J.R. American Horse being kicked out of camp, and accusations, not small accusations, accusations that have put people's lives in danger and which are currently curtailing the freedom of another person. Accusations which, if they were attempting to make them stick, could ruin J.R. American Horse's life, because they're saying that he blew off Sophia Wolanski's arm. And they're accusing the person that made that IED of being a terrorist. Essentially, that accusation is that J.R. American Horse is a terrorist.
Yes. Can I just interject something just to clarify timelines?
Sure.
I got here on December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
When right around that time, it had only been a couple of days since the Uchete security was taken from JR and the headsman had been placed in charge of camp security.
Mm-hmm.
So that was several days before JR was run out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you this to see if there was something afoot before we got there, because I was one of the first ones in, and the headsmen were brand new to the security job.
L'Oreal explained that to me, Chris. She said that that the Standing Rock Sioux tribe had, once they gave the order to put out the fire and that the easement had not been granted, they pulled back from the leadership of the camp, and the headsmen took their place. And that she was in direct contact with the headsmen, although she never told me their names, but Ed Higgins knew their names. And she also told me that the elders, she kept saying, and I said, what elders? What's their names? Can I talk to them? And finally she told me Faith Spotted Eagle and Arvol Looking Horse. And those are some big names to drop.
Yeah, they are.
And I asked her to give me their numbers. She got real nervous at the end of the interview. She said, "Are you recording this?" I said, "Of course. I'm a reporter. I can't remember all this stuff, and I'm not going to misquote you." And she said, "Well, I I would like to be able to talk to these people first, because I don't want to just give you their information without talking to them. And I'm like, well, you've already implicated them. You've already named them. That timeline that you're talking about, I don't know how long Mulaney and these other people had been installed in the camp. To be honest with you, it looks like Mulaney had been going to the camp on and off for months. Since she told me since August, since the runoff camp was created.
Crazy.
Yeah, but once again, I feel like there's been a lot of people that have been duped, if you will, certainly lied to by L'Oreal and the people around her, and they haven't been brought to account for any of it. It's really disturbing. There's so many other people that have been maligned, removed from the camp, humiliated, put in danger, put in jail, and these folks, there's been no accountability for them thus far. Nobody, I don't think anybody even knows where L'Oreal is. Although she took her Facebook down for a long time, and then she recently put it up again.
Did she put it up again? I've been scanning to see if it was back up this week with all the GoFundMe money raising and news coming back to Standing Rock. I assume she'd be back here.
Well,
we heard reports the first day that we were here that people had seen her on site, but we've not been able to verify that. And believe me, I would like nothing more than to run into L'Oreal.
Well, she did go on. I was doing a live stream, and I was exposing Mulaney Stoneman's GoFundMe, and when she set that up, under what auspices, etc., and according to her own website, what they're about, why they did this, blah, blah, blah. And she put her Facebook page up again for a hot minute to probably watch some of that live stream to find out what's going on, because a lot of the people told me, L'Oreal's back during my live stream of that information.
Yeah, it's special. I know. I'm fully, I'm fully expecting her to try again, especially with the attention back here. But I think we're all hopefully a little bit better equipped to deal with her.
Yeah, and I think that you should also keep in mind these other folks, because her associates or her known associates or whatever you want to call these folks, because they're all tied together. They really, really don't want you to know that they know each other. When I interviewed Bill Runningfisher, he told me that the person that screwed up this whole thing was L'Oreal Blackshaw. That she was the one that he reported this crime to, and that she was his major sergeant. She was the head of the camp security, and she said she was going to take care of it. She took down a report in her notebook. She had the names of all of the people, all the medics involved, everything. And that apparently she didn't do her job. And so that's why this didn't get reported earlier. It didn't get taken care of.
It was just that she didn't do her job, but it seems to me from everything that we're seeing and hearing and everything you've shared with us that she's gone out of her way to destroy what peace there is in this camp.
Yeah. And also, when he told me that, he never gave me her phone number. He never said, oh, yeah, I know her intimately because I'm invoicing the Veterans for Standing Rock. My business is invoicing the Veterans for Standing Rock. And I always wondered, because it was kind of strange that they identified him as camp medic something, security something, but also mentioned his business. Like, it's kind of a weird thing, right? It's like, and also owner of the Eagle Child Enforcement and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, was that supposed to credentialize him, that he owns a business?
Exactly, yeah. Am I supposed to be impressed by that? Okay.
But then when I realized that he had invoiced over $131,000 to the Veterans for Standing Rock, I was like...
Oh, and he's still trying to pursue it from Michael. I think just last week Michael got another communication from him, politely threatening to, speak to a lawyer if we couldn't resolve this. I'm tasked with finding him and having a rational conversation with him in a public place while we're here. And I think I saw him in the casino the other night.
Bill Running Fisher?
Hard to miss. Yeah.
Really?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 99% sure because I've only seen him once before, but he's kind of hard to miss.
Yeah. He's a big guy.
Big guy.
Well,
and he was in the casino. I walked by him a couple of times, but waiting for him to say something to me, but didn't.
well, let me tell you that these folks are dangerous, so I hope that you're well protected, Sadaf.
We are. I mean, we're conscious of the fact that this pipeline is going to generate $700 million in revenue a day for Dazzle, so they're willing to do anything to make sure it happens. But I don't know, Cindy, the way I'm thinking about it, at least, I won't speak for anyone else, is this is not acceptable in the country that I grew up in. And rather than take this lying down, if this is where it's headed, then I'm just going to go down swinging. And, there's no point in sitting home wondering what's happening here and doing nothing.
No, definitely. And it's much appreciated. It's much appreciated. I think people have been praying for support from somewhere, especially at this time, as the camp has been ravaged down to almost nothing.
And Cindy, and from my point of view, my goal here is to make amends for what happened after we left in December, and to actually provide that support that these people need.
Well, good. And my goal is to inform you, give you as much information about what I have uncovered and how it's connected to your work at the camp so that you're more prepared for that, hopefully.
Incredible.
Fingers.
I invite you to check out the podcasts of the shows if you'd like. I've been
following you since we left. I've been paying attention.
I
haven't stopped thinking about this place.
Yeah, neither have I. I mean, you can't go there, and it impacts you forever if you do go. But what I was going to say is that I'd be glad to provide you with the raw copy of the interviews I did with these folks for your purposes. I was contacted by a Bruce, somebody, I forget his last name, Bensvold or something like that, or I can't remember, but
Doesn't ring a bell.
he's your Standing Rock. What is it called?
Brandon Boucher.
Bruce.
Brandon Boucher.
Brandon. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that rings a bell.
I'm horrible. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have never talked to him. I've never spoken to him. He just sent me an email, so that's why I couldn't remember his name right off the top of my head. But he asked me for the raw interview I had with Bill Running Fisher, and I sent it to him. But I don't know that he listened to the one. He never asked me for the one for L'Oreal, or the one for Mulaney, or he didn't ask me for any of the other ones I had. So I was just like, okay, well, if you guys want that stuff, I can provide it for you. And then you don't have to sit through like 4 and 5 hour shows. And any information that can help you kind of identify what some of the issues are out there, I think will prepare you more. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I've been hearing things from all sorts of different people at the camp, and many of their stories are wildly different. And so I keep digging. I keep finding. I'm looking more and more deeply into this. It's got a lot of moving parts. Some of them are connected to the poisoning of the land, but by that person that was leasing land from the previous owner of the Cannonball Ranch. And some of it has connections to the land buybacks and the misappropriation of funds by the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe Council. Some of it has ties because these folks, L'Oreal, Bill Running Fisher, Mulaney. They all have something to do with these other cases which are connected to this story somehow. So I've got a lot of people working in a lot of different directions trying to find out how these things connect. I will tell you this, though. Talking to Wesley was the first breath of fresh air that I had in this whole investigation, because he was lucid. I mean, he could see that there was a lot of really crazy things going on out there, and he was really disturbed by it. So was Michael. He wasn't there quite as long, but my point of all of this is that I could see how impacted he was by it and how confused he was by it, like many of the people that I've spoken to. And I think that the reason is because it is very confusing, and it does have a lot of different parts to it. And I want to find out what that is, so I'm going to continue digging. And if you want me to share that, or if you want to tune in for what we're uncovering, I welcome you guys to do that.
Absolutely.
That'd be fantastic. We're definitely following you in the story. And anything else you want to share with us, direct line of communication. We're all working at the same time.
Well, I will share some of the stuff I've done so far on Bill Rennie-Fisher, because he's very central to the story. He's the one that made these allegations in the first place, and he's the one that said that he was connected to the Veterans for Standing Rock, and so he's implicated all of these people. He said he's a U.S. Marshal. This case has been reported to the FBI, and I know that they're doing an investigation. I've had my researchers looking into his background. The website that he created for his company, it was registered, the domain name was registered in November 30th of 2016, shortly before he claims going out to the camp in the first place. And that's really strange for a business that he says has contracts with FEMA and Homeland Security and all these other places. His company address, the street address that is listed in Montana, that street doesn't exist. And the other business location listed in Colorado, the building in which he claims to have the business doesn't have any property leased to anybody with his name. And so, like, it's like ghosts. It's like chasing ghosts. There's a case. There's a business. I'm still trying to make sure that it's connected directly to his family, but there appears to be a construction business, or he has some construction business he lists on his business website. So there are connections to that, but it appears that that company has a lot of personnel working for the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Of course.
And they have a lot of land and property in Mandan. Their meeting minutes for their company talk about their response on social media in reporting water protectors, and their investigations into the licensing of the dogs that were sicked on people by Frost Kennels, because I believe they're one of the subcontractors as well. And they also have meeting minutes where they talk about the alerts being used by the police in town when protesters were out there and how upset their community is. So that's just a little taste of some of these rabbit holes I've been going into. And once you start thinking about it, if my researchers are right, their hunch is because they're going through these minutes so they can see the names of the people. Some of them, he said, their names are slightly changed, but you can find out who they are. And so if Bill Rennie-Fisher is one of their employees, and it turns out that so is L'Oreal, or so is a bunch of these other people that are connected to the story, that would be really, really interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised in the least.
Well, I will fill you in as I find more stuff. I'm also looking into the criminal backgrounds of all of these folks. There's some really, really horrific stuff in all of their histories. Like, all of their histories involve Mulaney's history so far. There's a lot of dead people in her history, in her custody.
God.
Yep. It's really scary.
The thing that I am just going to walk away from with this is I've met some of the best people I've ever met in my entire life here at Standing Rock,
Mm-hmm.
but I've also met some of the most despicable people in my life as well, too, and she's right there on the top three.
Yeah. I didn't know how bad it was, and the way that they're connected to each other is also really strange. So, I mean, I think I just wanted to put that seed in your head that this may be more than just about her and her cronies trying to scam you for some money. This scam and the purposes behind what they were doing might be much bigger than that. Because Mulaney also had a GoFundMe. I mean, all of these folks had very questionable sources of money coming at them. Vaughn did too. So, obviously money is involved, but there's other things involved too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep on digging because I'd like to know what it is.
Me too.
All right, folks. Well, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know how I can help. And Sadaf, my email is real simple. It's just Cindy, CINDY, at kpppfm.com. Like K, Paul, FM, FargoMoorhead.com. All right. So, I know it was super long, but very important because there was a lot of information in there that you probably didn't know. And we're going to be talking more about the details. I hope you guys are paying attention instead of fighting the whole time.
Yeah.
Do I need to get my chancla?
That's right.
Don't make me get the chancla,
Yep.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of information. If you didn't listen, go back and listen so that you can hear, because we're going to break down some of the things that were said. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I always do. Try to figure out, why are they here? What's their involvement? But that interview was done in February 17.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm. A lot of information has changed. We know a lot more than we did then, but it was pretty much getting information from them that gave us more information that we'd go further on.
Mm-hmm. But they were saying, they're paying attention to the story, and they really want to help, and they're out there to make amends. They spent time with JR American Horse. Did you spend time with Kathleen?
Exactly.
Your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Did you make any attempt to her? When they talk about all the things they're doing, every response you hear, oh, that's why we're trying to do this. This is how we're trying to make amends. What did you've heard of the horrific things that happened to these two women?
Mm-hmm.
What have you done for them? What did you do for them? Did you do anything for them at all? Anything? Because you're paying off debts for a car that she crashed. But this is a woman that she almost killed, which is way, way worse. Uh-oh. I see that. We are, again, timing out. Out.
Mm-hmm.
Continued. Huh. Oh, God. Don't get finger pointy. Oh, man. And
We're back. Whew.
It's always like, taking apart a bomb,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like going to pull a wire.
There we are. We're back.
Ooh.
We have a green light. Let's talk quick.
Well, you know how many times that's happened tonight? We got knocked off several times.
Mm-hmm.
Our internet just went down. Just all of a sudden, like, beep,
Yep.
it's gone. So, There's a lot of information that we're going to be dissecting very soon. And it happened again, didn't it? Dang it. Oh, gosh. For why? Are they trying to punish us or what?
Don't know.
Oh, general failure now.
Oh,
Oh, we're back. Now, I think that might have ended the show.
oh,
Is it still running?
it's still running. Yellow light, green light. Sorry about that, folks. Internet's going in and out. Right at the end of the show.
They don't want me to tell you the good stuff that's
Yeah.
coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We have some good stuff coming up, okay? I guess I should just, wrap it up real quick because they're trying to knock down our stream over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Let me remind you, folks, we have this beautiful necklace to raffle off in silver tone this time. The raffle starts now.
Yep.
It will end on Wednesday at noon,
That's right.
Central Standard Time.
Just go to kpppfm.com/raffle and you'll find this post. Or you can go on the post for the raffle entry for Kathleen Bennett Legal Defense Fund. Have a look and click on the click to enter the raffle.
Yep.
Raffle tickets are $10, and we'll choose a winner on the 5th.
Every single $10 donation you make gets you another entry. Your name will be in there several times, right?
That's right.
And we will be bringing you more about the Veterans Stand, Respond, and Beyond. Maybe tomorrow, maybe on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But you will be hearing from us very soon. Do not forget to share that hashtag. Donate, if you can, to the Legal Defense Fund. Let us get Kathleen Bennett some freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Lasting freedom. Thank you very much for being with us here on 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And Minnie Wachoni, water is life.
And we're going to take you out with some Myron Red Day, Red Nation.
Mm.